Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the main event. You're here with me, Daniel.
And Aaron.
Aaron, it's been a little while since we've done one of these. We've both been on holiday. How was yours?
Amazing. Yeah, I really liked it. Go Atlanta. Got to see one of the games. If you get the chance to go, it's an insane stadium. Like, honestly, one of the best I've ever been to. But yeah, overall, it was really good. How was yours?
Mine was nice. I put on half a stone in pizza. What's going on? What are you going to do about it? So we do have a lot of work to do. So we've decided we will start by doing a little recap of how our weeks went for the previous game week. And then I'll be doing a solo podcast where we discuss our own Champions League and also my plans in a bit more depth and going through my team in a bit more depth as well, just for people that are interested in that sort of thing. But we do need to have a little talk about what happened, and then we'll be flying right in with the preview. Less work. I like it when we get the match day 5 and 6 because you don't need to go through every team. It's like, we kind of know what's going on now. So our job's a little easier. But Aaron, do you want to talk through how your match day went?
Yep. So match day 4, I did my limitless. And just I was saying to Dan before recording, thank goodness I did. Otherwise, I'd be in a whole heap of bother. I finished on 89 points, and it was just captain choice that let me down to get higher. Obviously, I didn't captain Lewandowski. Otherwise, that would have been well into the hundreds, 110s.
It's almost like you do this podcast with me every single time, and yet here we are.
So Lewandowski, Ronaldo, and Vinicius Jr. were my forwards. So 18, 14, and 10 respectively. So not bad at all. Gnabry, I went with him. He was lesser owned than Sane, so I tried to close a bit of rank, but then Sane he's too good. Chiesa, 9 points. De Bruyne was my substitute for Havertz, so I lost 2 points there with that substitute. Unfortunately, Salah was my captain on the second day, because I switched from Havertz, who was my captain. Honestly, it just bad thinking. I was in the zoo at the time when I was confirming my team, so the lion distracted me. Alonso, Azpilicueta, and De Vrij were my defenders, and Edison, 3 points for my goalkeeping. So a lot of returns. It was only De Bruyne and Edison who didn't get better returns. Salah, I guess, not as well. I literally could have captained anyone else and I would have been in the hundreds. So it is it is what it is. In terms of rank, overall 74,800. England 1,881, so very symmetrical there, and 316 in the AC Milan Fan League. Not doing great compared to our fellow writers, which we'll talk about in your solo podcast, but hopefully climb back in the later rounds.
Yeah, that Champions League is rough in terms of some of the scores that are knocking about there. It's ridiculous. I had a really good week. I got 116 points. 104.
Say that again for the louder. Say it again louder for the people at the back.
116 points. 104 of them came from a midfield and attack. So my defense and my goalkeepers let me down again. But I got absolutely not complaining. I was buzzing. But we're talking about the competitive nature of that league. I still only finished third. So a quick shout out to FPL Swede, who finished top. I can't remember how many points it was, but I think it was 130 something. Crazy. So for me, like I mentioned, I had Costa in goal, 2 points. Azpilicueta was 7. Mazraoui with 2, and Dumfries, I took a gamble on him. He didn't play, came off the bench. He got a 1-pointer, which meant I'd benched Kimmich 3. So I'd lost 2 points on that, but never mind. But the points were earned in midfield, mainly Nkunku with 12 and a player, because he got player of the match. Gonçalves with 18, player of the match. Jorginho with 7, because he got player of the match. Danjuma with 8. Leroy Sané with 10. Benzema with 13, player of the match. And Lewandowski, who I captained, because that is the sensible thing to do, 36 points, player of the match. So I managed to find 5 player of the matches somehow. I'll be honest, I was in 2 minds between Lewandowski and Sané. I did not know which one to go to. Ultimately, if I had have went for Sané, it wouldn't have been a total disaster. But I'm very, very happy I went with my my head over my heart and went with Lewandowski, because my heart was saying, just go Sané. Do it.
Yeah. The worst part about it was with me was that I was kind of going for the risk on day 1, safety on day 2 of Mo Salah. I think he'd scored 10 games in a row at that point. So I was like, right, I'm just going to try and just do a big risk, because I am lower in the ranks than what I would like to be. And it just, when Lewandowski just kept scoring, first I was like, thank goodness I've got him. But then each goal I was just going down and worse in rank, because you've got people who don't play the game anymore, who have just set and forget captained Lewandowski, and they're passing me. So it's just frustrating.
Try it sometime, Aaron. You should try.
I know, I need to do
that. In terms of ranking, overall, I'm 282.
Say that again.
Yeah, 282. England, I think people are waiting for the 1,000 on the end of that. England, I'm 8. And that's it, because I'm a neutral league, I'm 215.
You might get a PlayStation at the end of all this.
In 2024, when PlayStations become available and the UEFA Gaming Hub actually get their hands on one, because I'm sure there's like an 8-month waiting list for when you win a prize, even if it's like a backpack. So I'm not expecting anything. Also, there's plenty of time for this to go downhill. Aaron, you've still got your wild card left.
I do.
I've still got my limitless wild card left. By the looks of it, I'm going to be limitlessing in match day 6. I think I am, because I think my team looks okay. I'm going to just keep an eye out on injuries. There are a lot to go through. But with that being said, let's jump in. We are going to go backwards in time, because we do start with sort of reverse fixtures. Group H is first, fixture-wise. So we're going to start there and then work back to Group A. So with Group H, Juventus are top, followed by Chelsea. Zenit and Malmo both look out of it at this stage. Gratefully, we do all obviously get to reset our teams. So even if teams are going out, it's not a case of you've got to get rid of them. If they've got good fixtures and you think they're going to do well, you can keep them. That being said, let's start with the league leaders, Aaron. Juventus, do you want to talk about them?
Yeah, so Juventus, we know that they're not having the best season already. We've established that in previous podcasts. Currently 7th in the table, but they did win yesterday. And it was Bonucci who stepped up to the plate. Against Lazio, who are no pushovers, 2 penalties from Bonucci. I'm guessing he's the penalty taker if Dybala's not on the field. So he all of a sudden becomes a really interesting defender option, because, like I mentioned in the previous podcast when it was just me and Nathan, before their last game, Juventus hadn't conceded any goals in the Champions League, kind of like last year's Liverpool, where they were doing bad in the league, but then all of a sudden turn into what their potential is in the Champions League and just churn out clean sheets. Against Chelsea, though, probably not going to keep a clean sheet because of the way that Chelsea are playing, but having a penalty taker on the first day as a defender, he is quite pricey, and I'd probably prioritize Chelsea defenders just because of their remaining fixture. But just the way that the kind of table is, Juventus could just sit back, because anything less than a huge loss isn't detrimental at this point to them. So Bonucci becomes a more interesting option in terms of his ceiling because he is a penalty taker. Dybala's injured. Well, he wasn't on the bench at all. I don't know. There's no word on that. He could be fit for the game on against Chelsea, but there's no confirmation. So, and some people may have him still. So Chiesa, Morata are playing up front. And in terms of wing backs, they're not really playing their wing backs either, because Alexandro didn't start yesterday's game either. He was on the bench though. Instead, they played Rabiot as a wing back. So just something, I know a few people might have Alexandro there as a kind of a fullback of their clean sheets. And Cuadrado is on the other side, and I don't know, he might still be classed as a midfielder, I can't remember. But in terms of players to target, Chiesa, it still seems an okay option at his price point, but it's against Chelsea, and all the odds are in Chelsea's favour. Hunger Games reference there, unintentional. But in terms of like
how many fingers it is,
just peace. In terms of Hunger Games, in terms of the game though, if I wanted to place a bet, the odds are really, really stacked against Juventus to win. It's in Chelsea, and if Chelsea have to win, because they ideally do not want to face one of the giants in the next round. So, and they're just the better team overall. So that's it on Juventus.
Yes, and sort of speaking of Chelsea, it's going to be tough because they are rotating like crazy at the back. Kovacic is back. He was on the bench against Leicester this weekend. I couldn't think of who were playing there. It's because they weren't playing anyone. Leicester didn't turn up. That's why it was so confusing. Obviously, they do have issues at wing back. Whether do they play Cho? Do they play Reece James? Do they play Aspi on the right? Or do they play Chilwell or Alonso on the left? I think what you've said there, for me, makes me think that you'll go strong. Maybe Reece James might get a rest. I just don't know with Aspi and Reece James. But I do think Chilwell will play over Alonso. Alonso was dreadful in the first game against Juventus. I think he got subbed off at half-time as well. He wasn't very good. I think Tuchel would have learned from that. I think you'll play Chilwell. Chilwell looks fit enough anyway. I'm sure there'll be other games, and their last game is against Malmo. Is it Malmo? Or is it,
no, it's Zenit.
Zenit, sorry. It's against Zenit. I think if there's a time to rotate, that is the game to rotate, where other players will come in. But at the weekend, Chalobah played right-sided centre-back. He's got Christensen and Azpilicueta that can play there. So maybe one of them come in for him. Yeah. Maybe the Leicester game was his. And that probably had something to do maybe to keep up with the pace of Jamie Vardy in behind, and Vardy's very strong and Chalobah's very strong. So maybe that was a factor. I don't really like this game at all. I've got Azpilicueta in my team. I wouldn't want anyone from either team really, because as you say, Chelsea are favourites. They were favourites last time. Juventus came away with the win, which was a surprise. It's a lot of money when you're trying to hunt down in this game, like a point per million. I know like FPL is probably about 0.7, but in this you want a point per million really.
Yeah.
And Chiesa might hit his point per million. And then with the Chelsea boys, I just don't even know who's going to play. I've got no idea. So I'd just say it's an avoid. And if you don't have any other fires to put out, I would move out these players. I suppose you can take a risk because it's the early game. And is it the early game? Sorry, I've just assumed that.
No, not this time around. But Chelsea are the early game. The last match day, but unfortunately it's on the second day of fixtures.
With it being on the first, but it's on the first day, sorry. So with it being on the first day, at least if there are any problems, you can get rid of them. You can sub them out for another player. So it's not the end of the world. It's just, again, with that last fixture, I think they'll rotate. So if you do have a Reece James, Ben Chilwell for the last game, I can't see what's going on there. Gratefully, because I think I'm going to be limitless wild carding. I can maybe take a risk. I might get some news. I'm not too sure. There are other games to go for. If you've got one, maybe hold. If you've got more than one, I'd be looking to get rid personally.
Yeah, the thing that puts me off this game as well is that Chelsea play Man United. Obviously, we'll get to Man United later in the podcast. Some breaking news today, but following from that, it's the ruthless Premier League schedule in December, where it's honestly crazy amount of games that they'll have to play. Chelsea, already a notorious team for rotation, puts me off trying to predict what the lineup will be, not even for this game week, but also if I've no longer got a limitless and I'm not wild carding at this stage, trying to predict the Chelsea lineup this time, but also trying to make it worthwhile that it's two squads worth. Can that player survive two Champions League games? Just puts me off. For Juventus, it's a little bit easier because they'll just be going to try and finish top. They have the advantage at the minute. But again, it's just kind of Malmo last game of the season, Champions League group stage, probably a little bit better. But then again, why would I transfer in Juventus players to play against Chelsea, the champions of Europe? So
Yeah.
probably wait for next match day with these two teams personally.
Yeah, it doesn't make too much sense, does it? Going on to that game, the other game, Malmo v Zenit. We're not going to talk about Malmo, are we? We're going to say no. They've got 0 points. They've been whipping boys. We'll avoid them. For Zenit, tough to even predict what they're going to do because they're going to have to win this game, and then they're going to have to beat Chelsea by more. But to be fair, I think it's just any win will do. Did Chelsea just win by one goal to nil against Zenit?
I mean, Chelsea are on 9 points, so it would take some beating of Chelsea.
Yeah, like Zenit would need to win, Juventus would need to win, and then Zenit would need to beat Chelsea on the last game
to go through. It'd be pretty hard to do, but it's not impossible.
So I just think, but in Zenit have got. I think if Zenit get a win here, they've got third place wrapped up. That's Europa League for them. So this is a dead group. So I wouldn't be looking at anyone. If I was, maybe Santos at 4.4 million, try and get a couple of clean sheets. Maybe. And I think he's got an attacking return as well. Zenit did win 5-1 at the weekend. Zuba got a hat-trick. We've spoke for a long time on this podcast about the trap that is Zuba. The Russian league is not the Champions League. So yeah, I'd just say it's time to start leaving this group. It's time to start going into more competitive groups where teams still have things to play for. That'd be my advice.
Yeah, I agree. In terms of predictions, I've got Chelsea winning 2-1. I'll go 2-1. And then I'll say Zenit 1-0.
I'm going to go 2-2-0. So on to Group G. Group G is one of the most competitive groups that I've seen in a very long time in the Champions League, certainly this year. We've got, first of all, Sevilla versus Wolfsburg. Some injury news on Sevilla. 2 of their main players are out, what we think is for the rest of the group stage. So En-Nesyri, big man up top, and Navas, who is their right back / right wing back, depending on what sort of formation they want to play, whether it's 4 or 5 at the back. Both of them look like they're out. They are massive omissions for Sevilla. And these are 2 types of players that will affect their performance overall. And I think it makes Wolfsburg a much better shout than what they would be if Sevilla did have Navas and En-Nesyri fit. That being said, Wolfsburg drew 2-2 at the weekend with Arminia Bielefeld. I had to have a little look at that because I have heard of them. They're usually like when you have a little look up and down, you see who Bayern Munich have spanked 8-0. They're usually like these kind of teams. But 2-2 draw. I think their brightest spark is Mecha up front. But for anyone with Mbabu, he was subbed off after 60 minutes or so. He wasn't very good. which is why I think he came off. I don't think it was an injury issue, but it's just something to keep an eye out on, that if you do have him, you might not want him. Aaron, what do you make of this game and these teams?
Sevilla are really interesting because you look at their league form, and currently at the time of recording, Real Madrid haven't played yet, but they're top of the table in La Liga. Only lost one game, and then they've not won any in the Champions League against teams that, I mean, La Liga as a league is arguably, even though it's going through a down period, is stronger than the other leagues in terms of like revenue and stuff. But these teams are giving Sevilla a good run for their money. You can't take any of these teams for granted. And so in terms of this game, Wolfsburg aren't as, I mean, it's hard to compare when Wolfsburg are sixth in the Bundesliga. It would be great if we could just have like a group stage of every league, all the 20th places face each other, all the 19th, all the 18th and stuff like that, to kind of see who is the most dominant league overall. I think that would be really interesting. Potentially a FIFA simulation or something. But Wolfsburg aren't as dominant, but like you said, it's competitive and it's close enough that this table for this group could completely be flipped around. Sevilla could still finish top and Salzburg could finish bottom if results go a certain way. Like it's honestly crazy at this stage. The good news for fantasy is that they're all likely going to play their strongest teams for both match days, which makes them good transfer targets. For this game, I think it is pretty even, but Sevilla can't stay bad, surely. Like, Lopetegui has to get into Europa League somehow to win. So, sorry, I'm feeling. Anyways, a Spanish team has to win Europa League. Just has to.
We're going to get into a matrix breaking event where it's Villarreal versus Sevilla in the final, and it just glitches.
Yeah. So they have to get into the Europa League. Just joking, obviously, but I do think Sevilla can't stay this bad. 3 draws, surely just something has to go their way. I'm going to be back in Sevilla, just because I've got 2 of their players already in my team, and I can't transfer them out. I've got Carlos. Oh no, I transferred out the goalkeeper, so I've only got Carlos. So hopefully Sevilla win. Clean sheet.
Fingers crossed, because I've got Banu as one of my goalkeepers. Not that I'm expecting anything from him. Yeah, we've discussed. I think it was last year we sort of came to terms with the fact that La Liga is not the powerhouse that it once was, with how Sevilla were performing in the league and how Atletico Madrid were performing in the league, and yet coming to the Champions League and not having the best time of it. So I think that is something to take into account, is that it kind of doesn't matter if they're top of the league. I'm going to go with what I've seen with my own eyes over the first 4 games. I think this is going to be a draw, personally, for our results. I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw. Wolfsburg do have a new manager. They sacked Van Bommel. So I don't know if it's a permanent appointment or anything, but they were struggling. They did really well last year, and I think, as a lot of teams do, they've just sort of came down from riding the crest of the wave. Neither of them on great form. I would have said Sevilla, but I think with Naziri out and Navas out, that's just critical for their team. So I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. And if you've got their players, hold them. If you don't, absolutely do not bring anyone in.
Yeah, it's too tough to call. I'm going to go 1-0 just because I'm hoping for that clean sheet. My team has to turn around.
You can do it.
So,
we've got Lille up against Salzburg in the other game. Again, these 2 teams can do anything. They can be superb. They can be dreadful. We're not entirely sure. In terms of Lille, I think at this point, not to really have any Lille players. unless you've like punted for a cheap defender or a goalkeeper. If you've got them, you can keep them. But if you've got no other fires to put out, I probably would move one on because Salzburg are such an attack-minded team that drew 0-0 at the weekend. But any team can draw 0-0. So I don't think that's too much cause for concern, especially with the international break. Teams going to have players coming back from their international teams, not really have that time to sort of get integrated again. You often see a dodgy result after an international break. So I'm not too worried about them. If I was to have a Lille player, Jonathan David up front, 7.6. He got 2 goals at the weekend. He's their penalty taker. But as we've said 1,000 times before, the forward spots are just too premium. They're too important. So I can't see me getting anyone from Lille. Salzburg, though, plenty of players. Okafor, 5.2 million midfielder who plays out of position. He's a striker. You've got Siovald, who has 18 points, I think, so far. He's a 4.8 million midfielder. So if you're looking for someone around that, Barrios, Kante, who else we got? We've got Alvarez, Kondogbia, sort of price range at 4.5 to 5 million price range. I appreciate I threw Kante in there and it's like 5.5. Never mind. At 4.8, he can do the business. How many ball recoveries did you say you got, Aaron, in that last game? 4.8 million. I think he's a fantastic enabler. And he's got a much safer floor than Okafor, but a much lower ceiling. So it depends. Are you playing catch-up? Are you trying to play safe? And then, of course, Adeyemi. We don't really need to talk too much about him at this point. He's a fantastic asset on the game. He's very cheap and he loves scoring goals. What do you make of these?
Lille are interesting because it looks like they're not playing awful anymore, but they're still not winning. I think their last result kind of a surprise. The fact that they're still in this is a surprise to me anyways. They're just, I mean, according to like win probability and stuff like that, they're the favourites to win this game, but I feel like the people who do these honestly don't have a clue. Because Salzburg are, I would say, especially with where they are on the table, they're showing that they're the better team. With Lille, though, like it seems like they only kind of show up against the big French teams like Paris Saint-Germain. They were winning for the majority of that game. To beat Marseille and stuff like that. But when it's teams that they're meant to win, they just, I don't know what it is. I don't know how recent the news is, but Yilmaz is out as well, isn't he? So I think that was quite a while ago before the international break. I probably didn't mention it on the last podcast.
How very dare you?
Overall, I think Salzburg are going to win this. I just like rooting for them because it just seems that they do a really, really good run. They start really strong. And then all of a sudden, just results don't go their way, drop into Europa League or out completely. And then just their team gets ripped apart by transfers. Just seems to be a cycle that they've fallen into. So I really hope they make it through because then all it's going to do is boost these young players' experience, make them better players for the future that arguably other teams in Europe benefit from. And it'll be cool to have an underdog kind of thing if they get put up against a European giant, just to kind of root for in the knockout stages. So I really hope Salzburg win because I feel like their place in the next round would be kind of confirmed at this point if they did that. But it's just too close to call. You never know because they should have beat Wolfsburg last time.
Well, Aaron, I don't care if it's too close to call. I want you to call it.
Okay, I'm going to go Salzburg 3-1.
Too close to call and you've gone for a 2-goal deficit for Lille.
That's what I hope. That's what I really hope for.
I think my head's saying 1-1, but I'm with you. So I'm going to say 2-1 to Salzburg.
That sounds more like that's what my prediction should have been. But
yeah, we all say silly things, Aaron. It's okay. So on to the next group. We've got Man United, who currently don't have a manager, versus Villarreal, who currently do have a manager. So advantage Villarreal. That being said, with who Man United's manager was, it could be advantage Man United. We're not entirely sure how this one is going to work. We don't want to speculate. Michael Carrick looks like he's going to be in charge, as Aaron told me that off stealing his line here. But
yeah, so at the time of recording, this has literally just happened like an hour or two ago. It's just the reactions I'm seeing fans tweet. It says that Michael Carrick will keep his role. Other than that, all of the coaching staff are going to lose their job. So that's just me kind of filling in the blank, being like Michael Carrick will be the only one there to go. So I honestly don't know what is going to happen, but I feel like Man United have had a long time to kind of interview people and get people ready.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know what is going to happen. If you have Man United, this is one of them where they could be happy that he's gone, feel good, go out and absolutely crush Villarreal, or there could be even more rudderless, even more directionless, and Villarreal, with their very clear system, just put them to the sword, and it could be 2, 3, 4, 5. Like really could be any scoreline. Speaking of Villarreal, Danjuma missed the game at the weekend with an injury. At this present moment, we have no idea whether he's going to be back fit for the Man United game or not. It's one of those where we're going to have to keep an eye out on team news right until Tuesday, but he could be someone that you need to get rid of from your team. Unfortunately, he's in my team. That's a pain in my arse as well. This is a game that is just, we do not know. Stay away from it. Just stay away from this game entirely if you can. I don't really want to talk about it too much because I just can't recommend anyone or anything. Like, I think, Aaron, as well, you were saying that rumours are Maguire's going to step down as captain and Ronaldo is going to take it. He's a leader of men. If that is the case, I think that, again, elevates Man United to a better level, because I think he's going to be a significantly better captain than Harry Maguire. It's a tough one. I don't like the fact that we just don't know what to expect from this game.
Yeah, I've literally just read that Darren Fletcher is apparently going to be the manager, and then I've just read a story down from that, that Solskjaer may still travel to Spain to help with the team. Honestly, it just shows that nobody has a clue what's going on except kind of the Man United board. So I just agree with you there, Dan. I'm going to go, I do think Villarreal will win. It just advantage them. Man United are at danger of doing what they've done last year in the Champions League, where they were leading. And then it's going to be some result against pot 4 that lets them down in the end. So Villarreal, if they win, go 3 points clear at the top, ahead of Man U going into the last match day, which they would have snapped your hand off to take. So I'm going to go Villarreal 2-1.
Just obviously to keep up with the injury news, Varane is still out. Greenwood was ill at the weekend, and as far as we're aware, he's going to miss this game as well. Cavani is a doubt. So, to be fair, if you are going to go for anyone, I feel like maybe we have glossed over too much. Cristiano Ronaldo is your knock-in bet. The amount of goals he gets in the Champions League is an absolute disgrace.
Goals in every game, every Champions League game this season.
So, get him in if you can. Get him in.
Price.
And if he's captain as well, if he does get given the captain's armband, he's going to be raring to go. In terms of Villarreal, Gerard Moreno's injured, so he's going to be out. They've had a few other injuries, but if you've seen anyone injured other than Moreno and Danjuma, they are expected to be back. So like Auxerre, Capoue, they are expected to be back. But keep an eye out. If Capoue is not fit, again, Man United's chance of winning this game goes up massively, which is a bizarre sentence to say, really. But I think he's a bit underrated, Capoue. I think he's a good player. So
this is the early kickoff as well, so we'll get to see the lineups.
fantastic.
So that gives you an advantage as well.
So yeah, happy days. If we're going to see these lineups, then that's ideal. But if players are missing, try to remember it's not just about, or do I have a player available? Is my player playing it? Look at the other pieces of the jigsaw that aren't there. So if Alcacer and Gerard Moreno are both injured, that increases Man United's chance of keeping a clean sheet. It decreases Danjuma's chance of getting an assist. If Capoue is not there, it increases Ronaldo's chance of scoring or Man United's chance of scoring. So just try and look at it from a whole level and not just what players you have. I've got no idea what the score's going to be. I will say 2-2. No idea. It could be anything. It's one of them.
I've still got 2-1. In terms of Atalanta, coming from behind to win 5-2 yesterday against Spezia, Zapata seems to have kind of cemented his place as the starting striker. So no more Muriel. Although Muriel is still coming off the bench and scoring, super sub that he is.
Yeah.
Ilicic, which we mentioned in the last podcast, seems to be returning to form. But this last game, it was actually Pasalic who got 2 goals. So he's in great form. He's playing on the left. He's playing as the left wing, which is great because they're still playing with wing backs. So he's basically like a left forward. Zappacosta got another assist in this game as well. He's still a really, really cheap defender, but he's going up in price rapidly. I think people are starting to clock onto his form. Gerson still, I don't know when he'll be back. Probably he's going to be out for the remainder of the group stage. But if Atalanta do make it through, just get rid of Gersons if some people still have him. It shows that he's still selected by a few people on the app. And then other than that, though, it's the midfield. De Ruin's kind of the only solid one who's getting picked regularly, but I don't know how fantasy viable he is against young boys. He doesn't get much attacking returns, and I don't know kind of what Atalanta will turn up. And then the centre-backs, Toloi, Palomino, Jim City, they get a lot of assists to each other. It's nice that they actually have centre-backs fit for this game, unlike when they played against Man U. Because they also have Demiral and other players like that on the bench. So it's nice that they have actually their defence somewhat back to full health, just missing Gersons.
Is Pessina likely to play again, do you think?
Honestly, it's kind of just all up in the air in terms of the midfield. Probably likely to play. No, I'm going to say that there's less chance of him playing than there is, but because I've said that, he's a starter now.
I was just having a look to see if I had enough to go to Pasalic, and I don't, from Danjuma in case he was injured. However, I forgot. I've got 3 free transfers. I rolled a transfer this week.
Nice.
So that is happy days with that one. I can because I'm going to use Limitless next week. I can really attack this week, which is quite nice. I didn't realize that. Good. And I'm guessing we're not going anyone from Young Boys, are we?
I don't know about the like kind of specifics, but it's only been in their away performances where they've not scored. They've scored in every home game. This is a home game. Atalanta don't keep a lot of clean sheets, even though I've got their goalkeeper. So I am hoping for a clean sheet. But in both of their home games so far, they've scored. So, I mean, not that there's a regular goal scorer to go to, but the likelihood, it's more so from an Atalanta clean sheet side. If you are going to go Zappacosta or Mele, that they have scored every home game. So that's just something to bear in mind. And also Spezia are not the best team in Italy, and they scored 2 against Atalanta. So yeah, I think just bearing that in mind.
For his attack and returns. We know that if you get an Atlanta defender, you get them for attack and returns, which is why I'm still confused why you've got Atlanta's goalkeeper. When we,
well, you say
all the
that
time, all we ever say, we've been saying it for years, Aaron, don't get Atlanta goalkeepers ever. And yes, here we are. Don't explain that one.
Yeah, the fact that young boys haven't scored away. So match day 2, when I did, because I've gotten 6 points from all my goalkeepers so far. So Costa and Musso, I've gotten 6 points. So it seems to be working out.
It is. It's better than mine.
Okay. But yeah, if I had to pick this team again, an Atalanta goalkeeper is not who I would have picked. It's probably because he was the only cheap goalkeeper who was playing. He's went up in price, crazily enough.
Good form, apparently, getting beat off Man United.
Same price, because both of these were 4.5 goalkeepers, Costa and Musso, and now both of them are 5 million. Well, just under 5 million. So both of them. Are they? 4.9 for both.
I'm Excel Costa.
So we've gained 0.4 million from them both each, so 0.8 in total from these both goalkeepers.
I can tell you now, from having owned Costa, he doesn't deserve to have had 0.4 of a price rise. I'd look at him at 4.9. I thought you dropped a point. I thought 0.1.
Neither's Musso though. I don't know why he's went up so much.
Game's crazy. Game's cray-cray. What's your score prediction for this?
I'm going to go, obviously, with the point I've just made, young boys will score. So I'm going to go 1, Atlanta, go 4, return.
4-2 Atlanta. I was actually going to say something daft like that, and then you went 4. I was like, oh, okay. 6-3 Atlanta.
Oh, that would be great.
That'd be a great game, wouldn't it? I'll go 4-2 Atlanta.
Okay.
Now, Aaron, I think we've got one of the most interesting groups up next. We've got Bayern Munich's Group E. So in second place is Barcelona, and in third place is Benfica, bringing up the rear is Dynamo Kiev. But the interesting thing is Barcelona have 6 points, Benfica have 4. However, Benfica played Bayern twice. Barcelona need to play Bayern in match day 6, and they play each other this week. Whereas Benfica will obviously play Dynamo Kiev in game week 6. So this is kind of the final. And then both teams are obviously going to go into the last day, and it all depends really on what team Bayern decide to play against. Barcelona, if they are through, but I can't see Nagelsmann going crazy. And as we're about to discover, there are a lot of players that won't be playing this week for Bayern Munich. So they'll arguably come into play the last game anyway. That's sort of how I'm thinking. I'm a bit annoyed because usually would bite our hands off for early Bayern Munich team news to see who is playing, particularly behind Lewandowski. This week, we know it's going to be Sané. And we know Lewandowski will play. He won't be rotated for triple morning. And the reason we know this is because how many of them? 6 of them are quarantining for various reasons.
And it could potentially be more as well.
It could be. So we've got Nicolas Sewell, who actually has COVID. He has COVID. Get well soon, Nicolas. Now, Kimmich, Musiala, Choupo-Moting, Gnabry, and Cuisance, none of them are vaccinated, so they now all need to quarantine for a period of time. That means that they missed the game at the weekend, which Bayern did very, very badly, and I think probably 2-1 at Wolfsburg, and Nagelsmann came out and hammered them, said it's the first time he's been angry since being their coach. And to add insult to injury, Upamecano is suspended for picking up too many yellow cards. So they are makeshift. I think that's going to be fair to say. If you have Kimmich, which I think a lot of people will, get him out. Use a transfer, get him out. Bring him back in next week if you really want. But he's the most expensive defender in the game, I think. with like Trent. So get rid of him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he is a major part of their team. We always talk about how he's not a defender. He plays holding midfield. But he's clearly such an important cog in the giant wheel that is Bayern Munich. He's one of their most important players comfortably. Everything goes through him. He's one of the best midfielders in the world, which, if they weren't playing Dynamo Kiev, would scare me. But they are playing Dynamo Kiev, so I still think they'll be all right. What do you make of Bayern's current situation, Aaron?
I don't read too much into like politics and stuff like that, but the fact that over the weekend that the kind of the German government have announced tougher restrictions on people who are unvaccinated, I think puts these players not only at risk of missing this game, but potentially they're going to miss 2 weeks. And I don't think they're allowed to leave if you've come into contact. I haven't read too much, so if someone could correct me. But like, I don't know when the next group of games comes, but I think it's pretty soon after. 7th of December and 8th of December, so literally 2 weeks. So they're at risk of not only missing this game, they're at risk of missing the next game. But I don't know if that's whether you have COVID or whether you have just been in contact. So
I think it's a 10-day period in quarantine for those that have just came in contact, haven't tested, and that aren't vaccinated. If they were vaccinated, they'd be fine.
Yeah.
Apparently, because they're not. So I think they would be back for the next Champions League game. I think that's absolutely fine. But this one, it's a no-no. At least we get to see the team, to see how bad the damage is. This might be one of those times that we say, go for Davies over Kimmich. Yeah, we'll just have to see. But Sabitzer played in the middle at the weekend, and he is not a holding midfielder. He's very much in and around. He's a number 8. That's what he is. He's like an 8 to a 10. He's an 8.5. I can't say a 9 because that's a striker. He's not a 6. So I think that's a big problem. I think Nagelsmann needs to pick someone that can play that position a little bit better. And I don't know if he's got any players that can do that. With Dynamo playing against a weekend Bayern, would you have any of them?
No, I still wouldn't risk it. Not even if I had a limitless, I still wouldn't chance it for the off week. But yeah, like, I think Bayern Munich, even though it's going to be a depleted team, I think all that does is make the scoreline a little bit closer. So it's probably going to be like a 2-0 or 3-0 compared to 6 or 7, what Bayern Munich are capable of.
What's your score for this game?
I'll say 2-0 just to be safe. I need to have one prediction right.
I'm going to go 2-1. 2-1. I think Bayern will have a little scare. Just a little scare. But then King Lever's going to turn up and hopefully Sané can do something. Bossa versus Benfica. Very interesting. Xavi's back. He's the new manager. He took charge of his first game of the weekend against Espanyol. Controversially won 1-0 as Espanyol were the better team. But also Barcelona won through virtue of one of the dodgiest penalties you'll ever see. Other people have used the corruption word. We won't. But just throw that word underneath there. In terms of this game, Pedri relapsed on his muscle injury. You said this at the beginning of the season, didn't you? You said Barcelona need to be careful with Pedri. He's going to get a muscle injury in the next couple of weeks. Little psychic Aaron there, and that it might ruin his career. So well done, Aaron. His career is ruined because you said it. I hope you're happy with yourself, mate. Congratulations, you got the extra likes on YouTube or whatever. Little poor sod's career is ruined. Hope you're proud.
Yeah, my master's actually coming in clutch there. Actually learned something, I guess. So yeah,
clearly don't learn anything on this podcast.
It's I mean, I think recover. I think it's just literally the amount of minutes that he's played last season and as little rest that he had. I think that's literally his body telling him. So I really hope that he gets the summer off. It seems like it because the World Cup isn't this summer. I mean, it wasn't going to be this summer anyways, but Spain aren't in the Confederation Cup or whatever that's called. So hopefully he gets to rest because he is a great player, huge potential, and Barcelona have too many good players to. They can let him rest. Let him just Xavi. I know you listen to this podcast regularly. Just let him be. Send him on holiday.
Obviously, we do need to talk about Sergio Aguero. His career has came to an abrupt end, unfortunately, thanks to an underlying heart condition. One of the best forwards of our lifetime, surely. Absolutely phenomenal player, joy to watch, and it's really, really sad that he's had to retire so early. But obviously, health comes first, and his family's going to come first. And I think I might be wrong, but I think was his last ever game did he score a hat trick? Because was his last game for Man City? Has he played for Barcelona yet?
Yeah, he's played 4 times. He scored once.
It's a shame. I thought that his last game was for Man City. I was trying to hold on to the dream, and you had to ruin it, just like you ruined Pedri, Aaron. I hope you're bloody happy with yourself. But you're dead proud, aren't you? Ruining my Aguero dreams, ruining Pedri's career, make us sick.
Madrid.
What do you make of Benfica?
It's just a grading case, isn't it? Benfica, like we were saying it before we started recording this group, Benfica, Barcelona, this game is absolutely massive in terms of where these teams are going to finish, like how they're going to finish their seasons in Europe, because Benfica, arguably, this is the best time to play Barcelona kind of in this transition, but they've got the easier game in Matchday 6, so they've kind of got the advantage. They could finish second, and that would be great if they did. I won't say that too much though, otherwise I will get accused of just being a complete hater of Barcelona.
You are a hater of Barcelona, Aaron.
Of the early Barcelona, UEFA Lona. I do think though that Benfica could actually give them a good game, because I mean Espanyol are a good team. Like La Liga is really interesting in regards to, because of the new rules in terms of the funding, it means that Real Madrid and Barcelona aren't going to be as good as what they have been in previous seasons, but it makes the league more competitive, and you can see that from the table. So Barcelona are kind of caught in this transition. Benfica kind of sky's the limit. They could cause an upset in the new camp. Xavi's first Champions League game as manager. Hopefully it doesn't change too much, because we know that's the trap for a lot of managers, is that they change too much. Hopefully he keeps trying to implement his system that he's trying to get across. And I just think this is a really, really interesting game. Hopefully it's one of the ones we can watch. I don't know if it is, I have not looked at the schedule, but honestly, this is the one I'm kind of drawn to the most in terms of the implications of the group. So I really, really intrigued by this game, and I hope Benfica don't just give in, just be like, you know what, you're better than us. Got a huge stadium, take it.
In terms of players for Benfica, I still like Ronaldo. He scored at the weekend. He's a left back on the game. He's pretty much a left winger, plays as a left wing back, but he plays it in a similar role that Ben Chilwell's apparently a left back or left wing back. Kind of not. And against Barcelona, I think we saw the damage that they did last time against them. I think we'd be fools to ignore them. I think you can just, my recommendation, honestly, for Benfica is go on the game, look at who's got a nice steady stream of points, and honestly have a punt on one of these Benfica lads. I know they're away, but I think they'll enjoy. I think they'll rise to the occasion of playing in the Camp Nou against a team in disarray. I know that Xavi's back, and I think with the style of football he wants to play, it's going to be a slow burner for them. I think it'll take a little while to get to where he wants them to be, and then undoubtedly they'll be a powerhouse because he's got to be comfortably top 5 midfielders in my lifetime, Xavi. Absolutely ridiculous player. So I think, and he's done well in his first management job. I know it wasn't a spectacular job where it was, but Guardiola only managed the B team or the C team or whatever it was before he went on to win trebles and all sorts. So I think that's going to be a little bit of a slow burner for Xavi. I think the rest of the season is going to be damage limitation and figure out his players, figure out who they are. He's already played a couple of kids against Espanyol. They aren't available for this game. So I wouldn't worry if you've seen any team sheets. They aren't going to play. It'll probably be back to normal. What's your scoreline prediction for this game?
I want, like, my heart's saying Benfica, but I don't think that it's going to be an easy game for Benfica to play in. I'm going to go with a draw, unfortunately. I'm going to go 1-1.
I'm going to go late drama 2-1 Benfica.
That would be incredible.
So we're on to the Wednesday games now. So we'll try and fly through these a bit quicker just because these are going to be players off your bench, most likely, hopefully at least. Inter Milan versus Shakhtar Donetsk. Another tricky fixture. Hard to predict this group, especially after Sheriff's early rise. As predicted, they've sort of fallen off now. But Inter Shakhtar evens in the last game. How do you think this one's going to go? You got a lot to say about Inter.
So at the time of recording, Inter Milan have not played yet. They play top of the table Napoli. And so I don't know what Inter Milan are going to turn up. They've kind of turned things around, starting to catch up the league leaders, AC Milan and Napoli. So this, make sure to check out how that result went in terms of this. In terms of players that we have, I think the majority of us have maybe one defender, either Dumfries or De Vrij, or if you've been listening to the podcast regularly, you probably have one. Dumfries didn't play last time, but I think if he plays today against Napoli, he'll probably play against Shakhtar as well. Because the team that Inzaghi will play today will be the players that he trusts the most because it's such a big game. And so they need to make sure they get over the line in this. And although Sheriff are 1 point behind, I do think the table will finish the way that it is. Real Madrid, Inter, Sheriff, Shakhtar. So Inter, I think, will just make sure that the result is in the bag, get the job done professionally, and go on to the last match day. Unfortunately, I've got Lautaro in my team. I thought he would have done better against Sheriff, but missed a consistent 2 points. So he's on my transfer out if I can. He'll probably score a hat-trick this week. So I can't think of any other Inter players that people would have other than
Dumfries, De Vrij, Skriniar.
I mean, they'll probably stay in your team, probably keep them in your team for this game at least. But I can't think any of the midfielders or anything like, Dumfries probably would be at least this is the early kickoff, so we would know, so you don't have to like sub him on and then be like, oh, he's not playing. Like you'll know, thankfully.
And also, if you've got him and he's not playing, you've got a transfer. It's a good opportunity to make a transfer. I was in Italy for the previous round of fixtures, so the Inter Milan game was on, and Inter Milan looked so much better when Darmian was off and he was on. He has provided so much more attacking threat. And I thought he had a good game against Shakhtar in the previous fixture. It was just a case of, I think it was his first game back, like as a start. I think he'd only made substitute appearances, and you could tell it was just a lack of fitness because some of the positions he was taking up were very, very Ben Chilwell on the other side. So I'm excited if he plays, very, very excited if he plays. If not, then I think it's a simple transfer out. But like you say, we're going to see the team news. We know not to mess around with certain players now. We're 5 games in. Don't be daft. Just go for the players that we all know and love. De Vrij, Skriniar, Dumfries, Barella, maybe even Dzeko, maybe. Lautaro Martinez is far, far too much, and he's not proved anything yet. He could go off in this game. He could go off in any game. Absolutely, and if you've got him and he does, then you've got the last laugh. But that's kind of not how I like playing the game. So, I mean, anyone can go off in any game with that sort of mentality. I do think Shakhtar are going to get a goal at least, because I was really impressed with them the last time they played Inter, and I wasn't overly impressed with Inter's defending in the previous game. So I think it will be a professional job, but I think it'll be 2-1.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, it was Skriniar man of the match performance against Shakhtar last time. Because we were debating whether it was between De Vrij and Skriniar. So it just showed that Shakhtar, even though they're bottom on 1 point, they're not that bad, as the points reflect. So, and if we think back to last year, in the rematch, Shakhtar beat Inter Milan quite comfortably. So definitely not a pushover. So Inter Milan have to tread carefully, just try and make sure they get to the next round of the Champions League. So yeah, I probably agree with your prediction actually. So I'll do the same, be a copycat on that one.
It's not the first time I've done it. Usually you go first, so I get to be the copycat. Sheriff Madrid. I think Sheriff's illustrious 2-game winning Champions League form is now over after the 4 games. They were a joy to watch in those first 2 games. Loved seeing them get the points. And to be fair, I thought they played really well last week. I do not in any way think these are a bad team, but I think Madrid really turned it up in the last couple of games, performance-wise. One of the scorelines was particularly great for them. I think if you want to go for Madrid players, that's a very, very, very smart decision. Defensively, you can go for them. I can't see them conceding again. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think lightning doesn't strike twice. But Vinicius Jr. or Benzema up front are fantastic picks for this game. If you don't have the money, Vinicius Jr., why not? He's done really, really, really well. I'm on Benzema. I'm going to stick with Benzema. I wouldn't really go for any of the midfielders. Because I don't know who's going to play. They love to rotate. And for the risk, the reward isn't really that high. Casemiro's disappointed. I'm glad I didn't go for him this year. Just, you sort of see by the way that Real Madrid were playing at the beginning that it wasn't really suiting Casemiro all too much. So if you've got him, I'd actually move him on, especially for a game like this. I don't think he's likely to get a ton of ball recoveries. How do you think this one's going to go?
I don't think, kind of what you were saying, I don't think lightning will strike twice. I think Real Madrid will get the job done this time. Just at the time of recording, whilst we're talking about this, it's literally 5 minutes away from their kickoff. And so I've just had a look at the lineup, and Asensio, I don't know how much he is in the game, but I've just went and looked back at their previous fixtures, and he's been the starting right winger for the past few games, actually. I don't know how much he is, but I think he's an interesting shout.
7s to 8. Because I had a look at him. He was an embarrassing shout for me in like match day 2 or 3. I said, oh, he'll go off. Didn't play, did he? Because I think he's got a hat-trick in the league. So yeah, he's came back into the team. And I was thinking of saying him before when I said don't get a midfielder. But I embarrassed myself enough for the first shout of getting Asensio as a punt. So
I think, like, just looking at the past few as well, though, he has been substituted around the 70-minute mark. which gives him less potential to do something. So whatever he has to do it quickly. But yeah, I think one of the things that Real Madrid have for their advantage this game that they didn't have last time was Ferland Mendy is back. And he wasn't there at the start, so that gives them a threat. I think there's no coincidence that Vinicius Jr. has played better when Ferland Mendy is also a threat down the same wing. Teams have had to focus on two players down that side rather than just Vinicius Jr. So I think that kind of boosts his appeal. Benzema, though, is just Mr. Solid and just
Mr. Reliable, isn't he?
Yeah, especially in the Champions League. Actually, just in everything. It's just it'll be interesting to see how in like 10 years' time how he's reflected on, and whether he's kind of mentioned in the same, not in the same breath as maybe like Ronaldo, both Ronaldos and stuff like that, but see where he is in terms of like other Real Madrid greats.
Yeah, like
is
Raul.
he mentioned in the same conversation as Raul? Is he mentioned in the same conversation as Brazilian Ronaldo? Like, how will he be remembered in his time in Madrid? Obviously, because it clashes with CR7. Be really interesting. So, hopefully, in 10 years' time, something comes up that I remember asking this question, and maybe we'll visit it one time.
What's your scoreline for the game, Aaron?
Go Real Madrid 3-0.
Yep. That was me, 3-0. I'm the copycat this time. I knew I should have went first. The next group are in, again, Champions League offering up gifts this year. Why would anyone want a Super League? Looking at you, Florentino Perez, you mug. Haaland is out still for Dortmund. Does anyone in this podcast still have Haaland in their team?
Me.
That's a look of disdain from me. You get, you know what? That's how I look at Florentino Perez as well. The same way I've just looked at you there. So Haaland is out for Dortmund, who are up against Sporting Lisbon away. That's going to be juicy, isn't it? Hummels is suspended. Guerrero did come back in the weekend and got an assist. Woohoo! So if you've got Guerrero, I don't. I'm not going to get him in. Sporting Lisbon, though, have been on fire recently. I appreciate they've had the weakest team in the group over the last two games, but you only beat what's in front of you. And I think with some of the issues that that Dortmund have had, this one is very, very nicely poised. I've said it at the beginning of the podcast for my own team. Gonçalves is a player that I have and I would recommend other people own as well. If you are looking to bring a player in, maybe if you've got a Gnabry or Danjuma isn't playing, you know, a player like this, I'd 100% look at bringing him in because I think he's a great option playing against a defensively weaker Dortmund. We've said this so many times that when Hummels doesn't play, Dortmund are even worse at the back. I don't think it was a red card. Did you see the decision? Did you see the game?
It's been a while now. What I remember from the highlights, though, it was I remember the commentators having a little argument over it. I remember that, I think. I don't know if that was the American ones or the BT Sport ones, but yeah, I do remember it being controversial. I can't remember what happened, though.
Yeah, it was Anthony ran through, and I think he's meant to sort of do the Ronaldo chop, and Hummels he's kicked the ball into Hummels' back, but then Hummels has sort of taken him out as well. I do think it was a pen, but it's never a red card. Italy has got this amazing thing. So we were sat down in a pizzeria / sports bar, and we asked for like just any Champions League game, stick it on, happy days. And they've got this thing. Do you know how in the UK we've got that BT like goal zone or whatever it's called, and it's a bit like Soccer Saturday. You've got the 3 or 4 pundits talking, and the guy from the Gazette are asking them questions, and then you'll have a little cut to or whatever, and you say, "Goal, Milan, we're going to go over there," and then you'll see the replay. For this, it's just you get 2 or 3 minutes of a game, and then it jumps to the next game, regardless of what's happening. Then you get 2 or 3 minutes out, and it just jumps every 3-4 minutes to another game, irrespective of what's happening. I was like, this is mental. But so I managed to see actually quite a lot of all the games, and I really, really liked it. What I'd say is, please, can we have that? I'd really, really like it.
They have it in America as well, and they do it for the NFL as well, where there's no ads or anything. It's literally just cutting from game to game to game. So, I mean, the broadcasters make more money because we're paying to watch like the highlight games. But I wish you would be able to just choose what match you want to watch, kind of like the Olympic events, or just be able to watch like kind of like what you were saying. Just we're not interested in the commentators. We're not interested in seeing Paul Merson's face. Like, show us the game.
Is there anyone else that you'd consider for these? Or just as a heads up, Quartes missed the game at the weekend, but from what I've read, he's going to be fine for this one. Because I think a few people probably brought him in after his brace, and
I mean, even in the league, he's in great goal scoring form. I think he had scored in like a game, 2 games after that brace as well. So really, really good form. From what I honestly can't call this game, it's a weak in Dortmund side, but Sporting, yes, very fortunate being a pot 1 team, that they didn't fall into like a heavier group. But this group, I think, has been one of the most entertaining ones because Ajax are fully back. Dortmund have made it, are just doing like a typical Dortmund, just playing to their opposition rather than playing to their potential. And Sporting, we've not really seen much of them because I think the only Portuguese teams that we've seen recently has been Porto. I don't think anyone else has really qualified over the last few years, if just top of my head there. Benfica, I think, have only just come back as well. So it's good to kind of get that representation, but I really can't call this one because of all the stuff around it. So as a result of that, and it being on the second day, I don't have anyone in my team, I don't think, from this, and I don't plan on bringing anyone in.
I have Gonçalves. I'll keep it that way. I'm going to go for a Desmond on this one. Toto, what you thinking?
I'm not going to copy. I'm going to make it interesting. I'm going to go Sporting will win 2-1, which means Dortmund have to go and absolutely smash Besiktas on the last day to try and qualify.
Speaking of Ajax Besiktas, obviously we recommend absolutely no one from Besiktas and as many Ajax players as possible. That's what I would say. I have Mazraoui. I think he's a great pick. Blind has been absolutely exceptional as well in some of these games. I'd honestly try and get in an Ajax forward for this fixture against Besiktas. We saw what Sporting have done to them twice in a row. Anthony, Tadic, Sebastian Haller. I think they've got another player as well. I can't remember his name. It's Berghaus. Is that his name? I'll get it up. Go for any of them. Just get Ajax players in. That's my take on that. Nice and simple. I don't think we need to go too much into it. And if you want me prediction, I'm going to go 3-0 Ajax.
I'll go 4-0 because I want to try and transfer some of these players in. So go Ajax.
Go Ajax. I'm just having a look to see.
Early kickoff as well. So if there is any players, makes the substitutions a little bit easier for the second day.
It is Berghaus. Who it was. That's who the other player is. So they do have a few forwards to pick from. Go for whoever you can afford. Haller's 9.1 now. That's a pretty penny. But Anthony is 7.6. And I think he's looked better in the last few games. I think a lot of Haller's points have came from that his first 4 goals. I think since then, Anthony has outscored him, I think.
Yeah. So with Ajax, I'm planning on bringing in. I think I've missed the boat on a lot of these. And last podcast, I said that Onana might be coming back. Pasveer is the goalkeeper. So in case you listened to my bad advice on that one.
Terrible advice.
Pasveer is the goalkeeper there. But I think the struggle with me is that I've missed the boat on all these players. I've missed Haller's games. Mazraoui missed. So I'm just playing catch up from my bad decisions. So hopefully people copy Dan and not me. But I'm sure that's what people do anyways.
The penultimate Group B now, Aaron. Your team, AC Milan, suffered a 4-3 defeat last night. How do you need to talk about it? This is a safe space.
Thank you for being someone I could talk to about it, Dan. Their first loss of the league season. And
yes, get in. Yes.
That's exactly how you should if anyone does want to come to talk to you in a safe space, that's exactly how you react. Just as a few pointers out there.
Mental health is important. I just want to be a bigger help as I can, really. Laugh in their face.
So it was 3-0 before the time AC Milan were like, you know what, we're losing. We should try something. They brought it back to 3-2 within 5 minutes. So you were kind of like, oh, there we go, finally turning up. And then, they scored their 4th goal. It was game over. And then they felt sorry for us, so they scored an own goal in the 96th minute. So, thanks for that.
Yeah, it looked like a good game. With you supporting AC Milan, I think Nathan now probably supports Atalanta other than Newcastle. I decided at the beginning of the season that my team to support was going to be Fiorentina, so they're on my One Football app, which is how I was like, well, I should probably put this game on. It's like 2-0. And I think Newcastle are interested in buying their striker, who's been unbelievable. I think a few teams are now looking at Fiorentina striker, so he could be someone if he gets bought for next year's Champions League. If we buy him, no chance. But if any good team buys him, he'd be really, really interesting. Fiorentina's my Italian team now, just in case you...
Beautiful kits. They're always some of my favourite kits. That's a different...
Purple is my colour. Purple is my colour. So yeah, I love purple. And I think of all the Italian cities, Florence is got to be up there. So yeah.
Definitely. In terms of this game, I know your prediction was that AC Milan would finish above Atletico. It's still possible mathematically, but just with the way that AC Milan have been playing in the Champions League, yes, they were unlucky against Atletico Madrid last time. Should have won, but they've got the advantage. And Atletico Madrid every team other than Liverpool have to win, because it's still all to play for. AC Milan could win both games and make it through, but I don't think they're going to beat Liverpool in the last match day. So Atletico Madrid and Porto, it kind of favours them. AC Milan had their chance and have blown it already, in my opinion. So a couple of people may still have some of their players like Theo and stuff like that. Maybe, like what you mentioned, Brahim Diaz is back. So I guess that's a cheap midfielder, an attacking option who did quite well to start the season. But I think this game is more for Atletico Madrid than it is for AC Milan. So potentially want to target the Madrid players more. But it hurts to say that.
Well, Savic is back, but as one door opens, another closes, or as one door closes, another opens, whatever that phrase is. Felipe is suspended, so they've went in and out. I do think Savic is a much better defender than Felipe, though. Felipe is just like a big lump, isn't he? He's absolutely massive. And I'm not too sure what's happening with Griezmann. I think he got given a 2-game suspension, which has been lowered to a 1-game suspension, I think. So keep an eye out on that. Maybe check the news. But I don't think many people would have Griezmann anyway. I think that he was really punty. But if he's not playing, because he is such a good player, I think AC Milan have a better chance than what you think that they have. I agree. I think Diaz is the one to go for from AC Milan. I would not be interested in anyone else, not even Zlatan. What about Atletico Madrid? Would you pick anyone from them? Even defensive?
I mean, some of their defenders are still really cheap. AC Milan may have the ball in and around the box quite a bit, because if Atletico Madrid score early, they'll just sit back, which means they'll start to rack up ball recovery points. And so their defenders are cheap enough to where they're like tempting, but also just against Zlatan, and we saw what Zlatan did to poor Azpilicueta during the international break, almost assassinated him.
No, what's wrong with him?
I don't know. He used to do that all the time in the MLS as well. So, but just the fact that Zlatan has the potential to do that against Atletico Madrid defenders who also have the potential to do stuff like that, I think yellow cards will be given in there plenty between that battle. So
I can see reds in this game all day long. Them centre backs versus Zlatan.
There's a red card waiting to happen there. So they're cheap enough, but I think I've said it quite a bit. You get what you pay for. They are cheaper for that reason, that there is that potential that they'll get sent off. So it's kind of like, it depends what your other transfer is, because I wouldn't move sideways. I wouldn't move from 1.5 million or 4.5 million defender to an Atletico Madrid one. I would do it potentially Kimmich to one of them, if it means upgrading someone up to maybe like a Mane, or getting in like an Ajax player or something like that. Like if it means upgrading one player, or for me, getting rid of Haaland, going up to Lewandowski potentially, getting rid of Kimmich, going down to one of these, then I would arguably say yes. But then you've got players like Mazraoui and stuff like that who probably better for their money. So
100%.
in short, it really just depends what your other transfer is, depending on whether you should get some of these players in.
Yeah. What's your score?
You know what? I find it hard to then be like, oh, Milan out of it, and then go Milan will win. But that's exactly what I'm going to try and do. I'm just going to try and muster up the last little bit of faith I've got. I'm going to go Milan 2-1.
I'm going to do the same, and I'm going to muster up that last little bit of faith for a 1-1 draw. Liverpool versus Porto. This is going to be a nightmare fixture, because Porto are a really good defensive team, but Liverpool have their number. It's a bit like the other way around with the Napoli and Liverpool. But Liverpool always smash these to bits. Liverpool have already qualified. And with the other three teams just doing damage to each other, looks like they've qualified top. So I'm a little worried about rotation. I don't know where Klopp can go to rotation-wise, because, I mean, Robertson's already a doubt anyway. Firmino is a doubt still. I don't think he's going to feature. And I don't think he's going to want to change things too much. For me, it makes a lot more sense to rotate in Matchday 6. However, as we were discussing before recording, Matchday 5, there was a lot of rotation last year and it screwed everyone. So I'd love to bring in Trent. And I think I will. I think Trent is rotation safe. I'm not sure about anyone else. Salah's probably rotation safe, but he's also so expensive. I think if you've got him already, then obviously he's not going anywhere. And it would be the same for Mane. I think them three players are the ones that you'd want in. I think everyone else is rotatable, particularly the centre backs. Midfield, like I say, I don't really know where they'd go to. They brought on a young lad against Arsenal like the 80th minute. Does he get a start maybe? In a game that's probably going to be comfortable for them. Liverpool are at home. And yeah, Porto haven't been tearing up trees. I have Porto's goalkeeper. He did well for me last time with regards to save points, which is what I predicted, but he conceded 5 goals, everything evened itself out. So yeah, it's a confusing one in terms of where you'd go to. Aaron, I've just had a goal alert. Real Madrid 1-0 up, Marco Asensio.
So maybe that's a sign. He knew.
Get him in! Get him in! Whatever you want, it's your team. Yeah, so this isn't as easy as what we might think, which is why I genuinely think Trent's the safest option, because the man can get an assist any day he likes. He can score a free kick any day he likes, and I think Liverpool are looking better for clean sheets. I know West Ham scored a few past them, but West Ham have been good going forward this season. Didn't score yesterday. But other than that, they have actually been very good going forward. So I think we're going to let them off with that one. What about you for this game?
So I remember last year in the group stage, we said that Klopp should rotate when they had qualified, and he didn't. And as a result, Jota got injured for months. And so I'm less cautious of... I don't think Klopp has changed his stripes. I think that he will still just go every game to win Anfield, just give the fans a good time. Should he rotate? Probably. Will he, though? That's a different question. The games around him in the Premier League are winnable as well. So I think he just wants his team firing on all cylinders. I've already got 3 Liverpool players in my team, though. I've got Salah, Fabinho, and Trent. And so probably going to stay like that. Fabinho's the biggest risk out of all of them, but the ball recovery potential's there. So yeah, I think I'll probably keep it like that.
What's your score for this one?
I'll go Liverpool 3-0.
I'll go Liverpool 2-0. And finally, back to the beginning, Group A. So as we speak, Man City are currently beating Everton 2-0. Foden got subbed off before 60 minutes, which is great for my FPL team. That being said, because we've been doing this, I've got no idea whether it was because he had a little niggle and a little knock before going into the game and it's precautionary, or if he got a whack in the game. So I'm sorry. We've been doing this. That being said, if he is fit, then he'll be playing against PSG because he's absolutely unbelievable. And PSG won 3-1 at the weekend with 10 men. Keylor Navas got sent off. Messi got his first Ligue 1 goal. Took a little longer than I think we all expected. But Mbappe also scored as well, so that's something to keep an eye out on. Aaron, do you want to talk about this game?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest talking points of this is that De Bruyne has COVID, so he will not be in this game. Caught it while in international duty. So I don't know his vaccination status. I don't know what the rules are. But in terms of this game, obviously Paris Saint-Germain won the reverse fixture. Mbappe is in great form at the minute, had a great international break. Him and Benzema up front is just insane for an international team. And I think as things stand in the table, Man City are top. even though they lost to Paris Saint-Germain, which like that's a really good situation to be in because of Paris Saint-Germain dropping points to the other teams. So Google says that Man City have a 60% chance of winning. I don't know if it's that high. I'd probably put more on a draw. But it's going to be another interesting game in El Clasico. So in terms of other players, Donnarumma, I think, is going to be the goalkeeper from now on. And we know about the threat of Marquinhos, players like that. I think Messi's first league goal, I think that's just going to project him onwards. The same happened with Ronaldo in Serie A. It took him 2 or 3 months to score in Italy, and then he rocketed and still finished. I think he finished second behind Immobile that season in the top goal scorer chart. So I think the same will happen to Messi. I think his only competition in the top goal scorer chart is Mbappe. So if anything, it makes Messi more dangerous. But Neymar, I think, is also injured or has COVID, I believe. So that means it's Mbappe and Messi up front. So they're missing a key player, and Man City are missing De Bruyne and hopefully not Foden, depending on that injury situation. That's also key players missing on both sides. So it's going to be an interesting game because of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people have Cancelo. You got another assist today. We've missed it, and apparently it's assist of the season. If you've got them, keep them. I do think Man City players are a hold, but I wouldn't be going in for any. And it's the same with PSG players. If you've got Messi, you don't want to get rid of him. But I would not be bringing anyone in for this game. I don't think. I'd love to bring in Cancelo, but I think I'm going to be playing him. If providing he plays in the final game, I'll be bringing him in on Limitless, I believe. Because I think, do we get to see Man City's game for the last?
Yeah, we do. So they're the early kickoff. Because I think whoever wins this, because we don't know for certain which is, so we've tried to avoid talking about head-to-head rule. But I think whoever wins this game finishes top. So might rotate, but thankfully we get to see both of the Man City and Paris Saint-Germain's starting 11 going into the last game week, which I think will be key for Man City because they're probably the most at risk of rotation.
I can see Zinchenko playing that last game.
Yeah, especially if they win against Paris, because that means they'll be 4 points clear with a game. Depending on, I don't know how far below Leipzig. Oh, yeah, they don't even have to worry about Leipzig. So yeah, I think
they have to worry about Club Bruges. That's the question. Yeah.
No, Bruges are on 4 points. So even if Bruges win tomorrow, this week, and Paris Saint-Germain lose, Paris Saint-Germain is still 1 point ahead of Bruges. So
it's a shame.
Solid. It's almost a dead group. Kind of this after this match, how it goes. If it's a draw, if the other game finishes as a draw, this group's over, and who knows, they might get word that the other group's finished, the other match is finished as a draw, or that maybe Leipzig are winning, and then they might just be like, all right, we'll just both get through. I don't know how that'll go. We'll see.
I can't see the competitive players on the pitch enjoying that with how good they are.
I don't think Pep would do though, but
yeah, I don't. What's your scoreline for the game?
I'll go Man City 2-1.
Me too. And lastly, Leipzig versus Bruges. My team, Bruges. I think they've showed a good account of themselves in the group. It's been a rough group for them to be in, the group of death. For them to get 4 points, I think they'll be very happy with themselves. I think they'll be disappointed in places. They've been rubbish in the league. I'd be lucky if they even make the Champions League next year. They lost 2-1 again at the weekend. Bastos scored. If it's not Vanaken, it's no one, literally. If it's do not have any other players from this team. Leipzig lost 2-0 at the weekend. And again, I probably wouldn't have Angelino just because I can't see him keeping clean sheets, and he might get an assist. Oh, I think there's so many good defenders. But again, Nkunku's class, he's absolutely brilliant. I would not hesitate to have him. I do have him. He won't be going anywhere. I look forward to him banging in a couple of goals. Just another scoreline from here. Man City are now 3-0. Bernardo Silva, who I think has gone under the radar for a lot of people, but feel free to get him in. Yeah, there's not much to report on these teams. I think if you've got them already, you're probably going to keep them in. Leipzig, Bruges, you're not in a rush to get rid of any of the players playing there. But I don't know why you'd bring anyone in at the same time. Unless it was Nkunku, I genuinely think bringing in Nkunku, if you don't already have him, is a smart thing to do. What about you?
I agree with Nkunku's been, like, he's had a really good year. He's almost kind of carrying the team on his back because of how good he's, from what I've seen from highlights. So granted, it might not be the full picture, but like some of his individual highlights, and obviously from what I've seen in the Champions League, he seems to be their bright star who, if they fail to qualify in a European spot and don't get out the group stage or into the Europa League, he could be on the transfer list for some of these teams who are looking for some of these players. So they're at risk of losing more good players. Hopefully not to Bayern Munich. Hopefully they're a little bit more competitive than that. But I mean, we'll see.
What's your scoreline for the game?
I'll go with 2-2.
I'm going to go 3-2 Leipzig.
Right, going against your team.
I'm going against my team. They've been really bad, Bruges. They've been a very bad team recently.
It's almost like you were telling them off as a parent.
Yeah.
They've been a very bad team.
Bloody Bruges. Just wait till I get you home. So, yeah, that's a bit of a shame. And that is us done for this week. So thank you so much for listening. It's been a while, I know. I think tomorrow I'm going to record something on my own, just in terms of a little bit of a review in terms of where we'll go with my team and our own Champions League, which I haven't had a chance to do yet, just for people that are interested in that. So that should be good fun. Aaron, thanks so much for jumping on with me. I know it's been a while. I'll let you get back to your family now. And for anyone that doesn't see me tomorrow, I hope you have some lovely green arrows. Unless you're in and around me, then I want nothing but red for you, slot. We'll see you then. Bye.